am Feng Chaoyang, the only phoenix of the 9 heavens. After my parents died, I officially became the head celestial, but in truth, just a tool for procreation. My brother Feng Mingyao doesn't even have a body, existing only as a submissive divine soul. Yet everyone praises him as the heir, dreaming he'll gain flesh and take the throne. I find the hypocrisy of these old farts truly disgusting to even look at. At the council, Taibai Jingsing stroked his beard, a wide, satisfied grin spreading across his face.
Empress, a marriage to Xuanjian and the birth of an heir will secure our realm.
Beside him, the barefoot Taoist nodded along, his medicine gourd clinking merrily in his hand.
Phoenix blood and the golden bones of the war god. Such a child would be the strongest in the 3 realms.
Feng Mingyao and I are both our own flesh and blood? Why are our parents so obsessed with this bodiless prince as if they were glued to him? It turns out my true phoenix blood is only good for one thing, bearing children. I disagree. So I carried out 2 grand deeds that shook both heaven and earth. First, I let that sly fox spirit seduce my foolish brother. Instead of training, she dragged Feng Mingyao to the shores of Yaochi every day to catch crickets and write sappy poems, watching him chase after her with his creations, Wachieshans. The water of Yaochi is as green as the hem of sister's dress. I nearly laughed out loud. If things go on like this, after he gets a body, he'll surely be the first cricket emperor in all 9 heavens. Second, by marrying Shanzhen, I would disarm him, conspire with officials who dislike Mingyao, and seize the heavenly throne. Then I'll pull out Taibai Jingsing's beard, throw the immortal's gourd to the dogs, and send the flattering bureaucrats to sweep leaves at the southern gate. The plan was flawless until the day of the engagement break. The marriage hall in the 9th heaven was so packed with gods that you couldn't drop a needle. Sitting on the dais in my red robes, I chewed on a phoenix cookie hidden in my sleeve out of boredom, waiting for Xuan. I baked these cookies myself, crispy, honey sweet, so delicious you could swallow your tongue. But instead of a wedding with Xuan, I was met only with his icy glare. In black armor, he stepped onto the dais and, before all the immortals, pushed my cookie away coldly, remarking,
Empress, observe some decency. My heart belongs to a girl from the mortal realm. You are no match for her, and your persistent marriage won't change anything.
After these words, a deathly silence fell over the room. In the next second, the uproar was so loud it nearly blew the roof off the marriage hall. The old moon god immediately pulled out a handkerchief, covered his face, and sobbed uncontrollably, his tears truly heartbreaking.
How touching. The war god is so in love that for the sake of a mortal girl, he even rejected a marriage to the Phoenix Princess.
The master of fate, clutching his book, scribbled furiously, nearly tearing the paper with his quill.
The best lover of the year is, without a doubt, Xuanjin. This must be written into the chronicles of fate to celebrate him for ages to come,
It infuriates me how my foolish brother Feng Mingyao suddenly peeked from a cloud and started cheering loudly, clapping his hands. Brother-in-law's a good man. Better to die than to yield. Sister, don't force him to do what he doesn't want, I stood in the center of the high platform. In my hand was a phoenix pastry I had just taken a bite of, and I nearly choked with indignation because of this whole spectacle. What is even going on here? I am Feng Chaoyang, the only true phoenix in the 9th heaven, Liason. I possess beauty, noble blood, and power. Yet I am suddenly considered worse than some nameless mortal girl. And a crowd of onlookers has gathered around me, weeping and praising just to pour oil on the fire. This is impossible to endure. I hurled the box of pastries onto the floor with a slam. Shards flew everywhere, splattering Xuanjin's boots. Hands on my hips, I shouted at him, Hey Xuanjin, what is the name of the one you speak of? Give me her date and time of birth. On which street and in what alley does she live in the mortal realm? Is she alive or dead? If she died, in which grave is she buried? Is there a tombstone? Is there an inscription on the tombstone? Is his grave of the white moon, goddess of war? I showered him with questions, and Xuanjin was instantly stunned. His face turned pale, then blue. He couldn't utter a word for a long time, his eyes darting about, full of shame. Ha! I even wanted to laugh until I cried, and my pose with hands on my hips became even more defiant. You don't even know her name, yet you pretend to be a love-struck god of war? Nah. Marry the heir then, or bring a paper doll. Oh, that is better than loving a void. The faces of the gods turned green, and Taibai Jingsing could only point his finger at me in silent rage. I didn't care. I pointed to the disc in the center of the marriage hall. Flames of karma flashed in my eyes, illuminating everything around. Let us annul the engagement? Fine, but first suffer the pains of birth, aging, illness, death, parting, anger, unfulfilled dreams, and poverty. Return and choose her. I, Feng Chaoyang, will cancel the wedding and help find that girl. War god, do you accept the challenge? Xuanjin grew furious, his eyes bloodshot, and he hissed, Hest.
Very well.
He raised his hand and channeled all his spiritual power into the disc of fate. The cracked plate began to hum and glow with golden light. In theory, it should have dragged Zhuangzhen's soul down, but with a loud click it suddenly spun 360 degrees, and a blinding red thread wrapped around my wrist in a flash. Everything swirled before my eyes and countless images flickered past. Someone lifts a bright red wedding veil, and underneath is Zhuangzhen's face, handsome and a little naive. He was dressed in luxurious wedding attire. His gaze was a mix of anxiety and joy, and he reached out his hand to lift my red veil. I was completely stunned. What the hell was going on? Before I could even curse, I suddenly felt a chill at my waist. A pair of icy hands wrapped around my waist, carrying the familiar dark coldness of a demon, and shoved me into the abyss of the disc of fate, the threshold of reincarnation. Vera. Turning back in haste, I only caught a glimpse of a dark green snake shadow flitting across the beam of the judgment hall. Its scales shone with a cold glint, and its eyes were bright yellow and bewitching. It was Nan Ming, that very same fickle snake I had picked up at Yaoqi 3 years ago. He was constantly trying to steal my water for his elixirs. That day, a demonic abyss breach had occurred on the west side of Yaoqi. He had been struck by heavenly lightning and turned into a small dark green snake, barely alive and covered in blood. All the immortals urged me to destroy him, claiming that demons were inherently treacherous and cruel, and that keeping him alive would only invite disaster. He couldn't even lift his head, but his eyes held only a will to live. It reminded me of myself after the death of my godparents, when I fought against court intrigues all alone. On an impulse, I saved his heart with phoenix flames and hid him in the spiritual spring. In my secret place with its aura of immortality, he was able to heal. I showed weakness, not expecting that this snake would bind me for 3 years. In a rage, I shouted into the hurricane, "Jianming, wait, I will return. Turn your hide into a scarf and your bile into wine, and your wine." On my birthday, the sky glowed with happiness, and a purple dawn and golden light illuminated the Yi family mansion. The servants, amazed by the sight of a strange green cloud on the horizon, crowded at the doors.
That fortunately is a dragon. It is a cloud in the shape of a dragon. The mist is a lucky star sent down from the heavens.
Lying in my swaddling clothes with my eyes closed, I just smirked to myself. It's not a dragon, but that snake Jianming. 3 years ago, I found him on the shore of Yaoqi, half dead, covered in wounds, unable to take human form, animal form. I saved him out of kindness, and the scoundrel ended up lurking by the pool every day, stealing the water after my bath. For alchemy, he called it phoenix water. The best elixir in all the realms. Shameless demon. I knew about the water theft. The spring is connected to my pool, and when he hid, his tail always gave him away. Haname, anyone would have noticed that. I wanted to expose him, but seeing him carefully scoop the water, I changed my mind. He thought my bath water was a valuable ingredient, unaware of the energy I put into it. Any demon would have perished from such power, but he survived, because I once saved his heart with my true flame. Later, I started ignoring it, adding herbal juices and eyes to the water. I saw him create the elixir, his eyes shining like bright gold stars. And he never knew that his precious ingredients for Liangdan were just my casual indulgence. As expected, soon that cheeky, mocking voice echoed in my ears.
Little Phoenix, did you like the gift that Liu gave you?
Having become a human, he is now called Lu Fei, dazzlingly handsome and teaching at the Ye family house. The first time he took human form, he embarrassed himself so much that the Yachi carp would have laughed for 3 years. Back then, he had just restored his core, and the form was unstable, and a young man's face, but with a snake's tail below. He panicked and knelt with his first pills, his voice trembling. Ling.
Your Highness, save. Thank you, Your Highness, for saving me.
I looked at his snake tail, still swaying unconsciously, and almost spat out the immortal tea I had just drunk. Seeing me laugh, he immediately blushed to the roots of his hair and seemed ready to sink through the floor. The snake tail wrapped around a nearby stone and dug several small pits in the ground. That same day, he said he had no name, and, without thinking, I replied, "Then, let it be Nan Ming." Nan is for his blush, and Ming is for the roots of the abyss. He remembered that name and acknowledged only it everywhere remaining, my Feng Chaoyang, the snake. When I was whimpering in my swaddling clothes, he leaned over and whispered,
Now the whole world considers you a real treasure.
Inside I was indignant. What kind of treasure? Why did you push me? My plan in the 9 heavens is not yet complete. Nanning, as if hearing my thoughts, began to explain grumpily.
Xuanjin has returned from his trials stronger. Don't you want to follow his example?
His voice grew even softer, with a barely noticeable note of self-satisfaction.
The 7 plate will erase everyone's memories, but I, Liu, managed to keep your soul intact with great difficulty.
Saying this, he suddenly lay down right next to my swaddle. This demon was colder than ice, and I immediately burst into tears. The nanny came running at the cry, picked me up, and began to pat my back. Her warm palm calmed me down. Nanming stood nearby and, as if realizing something, nodded.
Oh, so that's how it is. It turns out you are just being cranky. Liu understood everything.
Since then I have had a strange snake companion. Whether I cry from hunger, wet diapers, or a mosquito bite, he just walks up and pats me on the back. Patting me, he would also reach out his cold fingers to poke my cheek, saying,
Little Phoenix has such soft cheeks like peaches from Yaoqi.
If I weren't an infant now and could move, I would definitely bite his finger off. Just like that. In the hustle and bustle, 8 years passed. I finally grew to an age where I can run and jump, and I also learned with difficulty to hold back my tears. And on this day, I was sitting in the study practicing calligraphy when suddenly Zunming approached me again, sat down nearby, and looked very offended.
The little heir hasn't been cranky with Liu at all, lately?
I didn't even lift my head, leaving to the Lunyu in my hands. I said calmly, "What's the point of being cranky? You wouldn't give me your most important thing just because I'm being cranky." I thought he would hesitate. After all, for demons, the most valuable thing is their life artifact and power. In the end, he didn't say a word, immediately grabbed my hand that was holding the brush. Yes. A flattering smile played in his eyes, and his eyes, like molten bronze, shone.
For the little heir, I would give not only my life artifact, but also my venom, if you asked.
With these words, his dark green snake tail immediately wrapped around my ankle, cold and slippery. I jumped up in fright, took 3 steps back, and almost knocked over the bookcase behind me. Stay away from me. This body is only 8. Secondly, this is no place for lawlessness and sensitive topics. Thirdly, touch me with your snake tail one more time, and I'll make soup out of it. Only then did Nanming, with a dissatisfied look, retract his tail and snake tongue, obediently lay down on the floor next to me, and resting his chin on his hand, began to watch me read. Sunlight streamed through the window frames, falling on his long eyelashes and his profile, and the play of light and shadow seemed especially soft. I was reading and noticed that he had fallen asleep. He was sleeping soundly with a faint smile and didn't wake up even when sparks from the stove burned his brocade clothes. I looked at those charred holes, then at his calm, sleeping face, and suddenly a thought flashed in my mind. This fickle snake is both crazy and stupid, yet still quite cute. And of course, such quiet and peaceful days could not last for long. Peace is like thin ice, it only takes a nudge to crack. The day I had just squeaked a sound, the gates of the Ye mansion were deafeningly kicked in, and a palace eunuch with a shrill voice read out a decree. His voice carried throughout the entire street.
By the will of heaven, the emperor commands the marriage of the second daughter of the Ye family, Ye Yayan, to the third prince, Xiao Zhenheng, choosing the most auspicious day for the wedding. The command must be fulfilled.
The teacup in my hand crashed to the floor and shattered into pieces. Before I could even come to my senses, Naming jumped out from the backyard, walked up to me, and whispered into my ear with a mysterious smile.
Little mistress, this marriage is a trial that fate has prepared for you.
My heart skipped a beat. I began to ask him for the details. What kind of trial? Is it connected to Xuanqing? When will I be able to return to the 9th heaven? He intrigued me, pinched my cheek, and simply changed the subject.
A newcomer will arrive tomorrow. Remember the prophet from Liu.
Looking into his sly golden pupils and scolding him for his cunning, I still gripped his fatal face, gently touched his brows and eyes, and smiled obediently and meekly. Of course you are the most important thing to me, for you are my only support in this mortal world. These words, like honey, lulled Naming to sleep. The smile in his eyes grew brighter, and the tip of his tail curled upward. He was as happy as a 600-pound child, and in one motion he turned over, pulling me close to him. The rain is rustling outside the window. Droplets tap against the peony petals in the courtyard, making a soft rustling sound. Inside the room, the candle flame flickers, and the quiet rustle of clothes is heard. All worldly cares and boundaries between realms dissolve in this moment into a single surge. The next day, I put on a bright red wedding dress and sat in a festive palanquin to head to the palace. When the wind lifted the curtain, I noticed a figure in dark green at the corner of the street. Naming was looking at me with a complex expression in his eyes. I turned away and whispered in my mind, "Fickle snake, wait for my return after the trial. Then we will settle accounts." On the wedding night, by the light of red candles, Xiao Zhenheng lifted my veil. Seeing a face exactly like Xuan Qing's, I blurted out in a trance,
Xuan Qing?
Xiao Zhenheng was taken aback for a moment, frowned and said,
What Xuan Qing? I am Xiao Zhenheng.
Then he opened the window, pointing at the moon with a look of complete bewilderment.
Second, Miss Yi, isn't it strange to ask about this on our wedding night?
He remembers neither me nor Xuan Qing. The fate tablet wiped everything clean. Good, no need to recall the troubles of the 9 heavens. I grabbed his sleeve and quickly climbed onto the residence wall. Soft moonlight flooded everything around. Taking out Naming's talisman, I touched it, sparking a golden glow and a swarm of glittering fireflies. Those tiny lights on the ground were mesmerizing in their beauty. I simply couldn't take my eyes off them. Look! I turned around to share the joy. But Xiao Zhenheng wasn't looking at the fireflies, but at me. His eyes had a tenderness and devotion I had never seen before. He reached out and traced words onto my palm.
May the moonlight always shine upon you.
The warmth of his fingers was searing, making my heart flutter. In that instant, the Milky Way shifted, the stars shone brighter, and a ghostly image of Xuan Jin suddenly appeared before my eyes. He once wore the battle armor of the 9 heavens, held my hand with our fingers intertwined, and shared secrets with me at Yaoqi. These scenes were so real, as if they had happened just yesterday. Suddenly a chill ran through me. Goosebumps broke out on my skin, and I tapped my head twice. Yes. What the hell is this? I won't let that scoundrel trick me ever again. Simon Pan is mocking me once more. A strong wind suddenly picked up, nearly blowing me off the high wall. At that moment, I was caught in a warm embrace, smelling of a faint pine scent so familiar that I almost felt sick. That smell was exactly like Xuan Jin's. And this very scene was witnessed by a dark green figure, hiding behind the rockery. In the middle of the night, I was awakened by a piercing cold, and opening my eyes, I saw a black shadow at the foot of the bed. A thick scent of blood emanated from the shadow, and the sinister scales on its body glimmered in the moonlight, turning into blades as sharp as knives, as if it could tear a person to pieces the next second. I nearly screamed in terror, but looking closer, I finally recognized the silhouette. It was Naming. My heart was pounding wildly, and my voice trembled.
You killed the 3rd prince.
Has he gone completely insane? Breaking into the prince's residence to kill. The dark figure turned, and I saw Naming's distorted face. There was blood at his mouth, his eyes were red, and a cold snake-like tongue smelling of copper slid across his neck. His voice was hoarse with jealousy.
Now that your highness has married another, Liu feels jealous. Is that not allowed?
I was so angry that I shook all over, raised my hand, and slapped him across the face. A sharp ringing sound echoed.
Damn it.
I roared with fury.
Xiao Zhenheng, my only chance to return to the 9 heavens. You ruined the trial. You ruined me. I'll peel the skin off you to make a scarf and turn your bile into wine.
Naming was stunned by my blow. The malice on his face dissipated slightly, replaced by deep resentment. He gripped my wrist so tightly I thought my bones would shatter. A dark green snake tail coiled around my throat as well. The cold touch made it hard for me to breathe. He stared into my eyes, his voice dripping with madness as he spoke.
Swear that in your heart there is only Liu, even in the highest heavens. Only she shall be your empress.
Empress? I nearly laughed in anger, and waving my hand, I shouted, Nanming. I could have ruled the world, but you forced me through this, and now you dare demand to be empress? I, Feng Chaiyan, will not make a demon an empress. These words wounded Nanming to his very core. His eyes turned bloodshot, and demonic power filled the air around us. He was furious. Demons are obsessive, and in their madness they might even kill themselves. In a panic, I shed 2 hot tears onto Nanming's hand. His movements froze, and his rage-filled eyes cleared. He released my wrist, and the snake tail slid away from my throat. He reached out awkwardly and patted my back like a child, looking clearly flustered.
Your Highness, don't cry. He isn't dead. Hid. I just knocked him out and threw him in the study.
He sighed, his voice sounding hurt like an abandoned child.
Silly Highness, you wouldn't even lie for Liu's sake. Fine, you don't have to love me, just don't cry.
He leaned close to my ear, his breath burning, whispering every word with intensity.
But under no circumstances should you fall in love with Xuanzun again.
Seeing his stubbornness and vulnerability, my heart suddenly softened. This mad snake, though he acts strangely and wildly, seems to have never truly harmed me. At the gods' banquet, Tai Bai Jinxing again publicly forced me to marry Xuanding. In anger, I left for the lotus pond, scolding the old men for their rigidity. Suddenly, Nanming appeared and handed me the seeds of a freshly picked lotus.
Your Highness, they are sweet.
He didn't say a word of comfort, just squatted by the pond with me until the moon reached its zenith. I later learned that to pick the best lotus, he had cut his hands on thorns but saved the tender seeds for me. And when Feng Minwo lured me to the abyss, Nanming, ignoring the conflict within his powers, shielded me with his own body. He was unconscious for 3 months, but he never spoke of it. I keep it all in my heart. It turns out that from the very beginning he wasn't just a rescue, he was my secret protector. Seeing that I was no longer crying, he tried to hug me again with a fawning expression.
Your Highness, Liu brought you your favorite osmanthus cakes.
Get out. I forced the word out with a stony face, though deep down, my heart had softened just a little. Nanming's movement froze in midair. He gave me an offended look, but eventually retreated obediently to the window. He sat down on the windowsill. The tip of his tail tapped against the window frame like an aggrieved bride. Watching him, I felt both angry and amused. This demon is truly some kind of madman. In the months since our wedding, Xiao Jingxuan had been kind, taking walks with me, buying tanghulu, and silently shelling seeds while I read. But this life tired me out. Endless strolls, flowers, or checking his boring princely ledgers. Those numbers only made my head spin. I, Fang Chaoyang, was born to rule the world, not to count pennies for mortals. In the spring on the old emperor's birthday, the prince's wives were ordered to perform at the palace, Xiao Jingxuan asked me about it with concern.
My dear, do you have any ideas?
He feared I would disgrace him at the emperor's feast, knowing my reputation as an idle slacker, not like a lady at all. I looked at him and snatched his sword. Qingming. The blade left the scabbard, and my eyes lit up at its sharp gleam. A dance. I pointed to Xiao Jingxuan's sword and said briefly, I want to perform a sword dance. Xiao Jingxuan was so bewildered he didn't notice the fan slip from his hands. He hadn't expected that a capricious girl like me would know how to dance with a sword. In the reflection of the steel, I saw Nanming in his blue robes. He was playing with a lock of his hair, his golden pupils watching me, intently. Me. His voice, ringing in my head, sounded jealous.
With this dance, Your Highness, do you mean to impress only Xuanjin or me as well?
I was startled, nearly dropping the sword from my hands. This guy dared to sneak into the palace. Is he not afraid of being caught by the palace guards? In my confusion, the sword slipped from my hands, whistled as it buried itself into the Empress's couch, and stopped with its tip right in front of Nanming's nose, just an inch from his face. The surrounding court ladies and eunuchs were scared to death and fell to their knees. However, Nanming was not afraid at all. On the contrary, he narrowed his vertical pupils and smiled devilishly, as if saying,
Your Highness, you shouldn't do that. Attempting to kill your husband is a grave crime.
Rolling my eyes and sheathing the sword, I thought he was looking for death. Xiao Jingxuan ran over and anxiously held me by the shoulders.
My dear, are you all right?
I am not feeling well today. I pointed at him and said expressionlessly, Sleep in the study. Xiao Jingxuan's face darkened instantly. He looked so hurt, as if he had been abandoned.
Did I do something wrong? You can punish me. Be angry with me. Just don't kick me out.
His eyes were exactly like Xuanjin's, full of resentment and pleading, which only annoyed me more. I forced out a single word again. Leave. In the end, S.A. Jingxuan couldn't persuade me, and he hung his head and walked out of the room despondently. As soon as he left, Nanming appeared right beside me like a ghost. He smugly crept up to me and rubbed the tip of his tail against the back of my hand.
The little prince wants to be alone with Liu.
I looked at him with a strained smile. Hey, you get out of here too.
Nanming curled his lips, wagged his tail, and left looking back at every step while grumbling quietly to himself.
Her Highness really doesn't know how to pity or cherish girls. What a pity.
Liu is truly very pathetic.
Looking at his provocative expression, I couldn't help but laugh. Finally, it became quiet. I sat on a chair, looked at the moon outside the window, and wondered, how am I inferior? We both hold high positions. Why must I dance and entertain the old emperor on his birthday like a pet? And why can his son sit on the dais and chat carefreely? There is only one answer. He has real power, and I have only the favor he tosses my way. If I had listened to those immortal officials, hadn't fought or sought my own path, and had given everything to that brother who doesn't even have his own body, my fate would be the same as it is today. Always dull? Always just someone's accessory, a toy in someone else's hands? No, I won't allow it. I, Feng Chaoyang, crave power over life. I want my word to become law, and for the people to bow before me. Tomorrow is the banquet in the Imperial Palace. The hall shone with gold, glasses clanked, and there was merriment all around. When the prince's brides began to perform, other wives played music, danced, or painted. Their delicate talents lulled the audience to sleep. When my turn came, I walked to the center with a Qingming sword, without music or accompaniment. I sighed and drew my sword. Its light blinded like lightning, and the first swing was like a dragon emerging from the sea. I poured all the fury and resentment gathered over days into the strike. The edge whistled, slicing through the curtains with a ring. I spun and struck. In every movement there was the pride of a phoenix, and the madness of a demon. Everyone in the hall first showed contempt, then surprise, and in the end they were completely frozen in shock. Even the old emperor set aside his glass and kept his gaze fixed on me. The glow of the sword faded. I sheathed the blade, breathing calmly and imperturbably. Silence reigned in the hall. In an instant, the old emperor jumped up and laughed, clapping his hands.
Good. That is truly a valiant and courageous daughter-in-law. You must be the third son's wife, Lady Yi.
Exactly right. I put away the sword and bowed. My voice rang out clear and resonant. Reign Chen greets the emperor father. The emperor fingered his pearl prayer beads, striking the table sharply in admiration.
Good. It is very good to reward the concubine with 100 taels of silver and 1,000 rolls of silk.
Returning to his seat, Xiao Zhanheng approached me and smiled foolishly and smiled fully.
The emperor does not reward in vain, Jiaoer. You did well.
I smirked coldly, threw a glance at him, and said quietly, wonderful, truly wonderful power. The emperor father rewarded me not because I danced well, but because I possessed the same determination he had in his youth. We have always bowed not to this decrepit old man, but to the power standing behind his back. The smile on Xiao Zhanheng's face froze. His gaze revealed complete astonishment. He likely did not expect that I, a spoiled girl from a noble family, could see the essence of court life so clearly. On the way back, the carriage drove past the walls. I looked at the roof tiles shining with gold in the moonlight. I want to decide fates myself so that my word becomes law, and the entire nation would bow before me. At that moment, I dreamed that Naming was sitting in the carriage. Despite his oddities, he understands me and would surely say with a smile,
My Highness, I wish for all your desires to be fulfilled.
After the feast, the emperor changed his attitude toward me. He often summoned me to the palace, consulted on affairs, and gave me reports to read. Even the gazes of the old ministers toward me changed. At first they despised me, but then they began to fear me. I understood that my game was just beginning, and all this chaos was initially staged by my dear brother Fen Mingyao. After our parents' death, he understood without a body, one soul cannot overcome my phoenix blood. Taking advantage of the god's bias against daughters, he pretended to be timid, casting me only as a tool for childbearing and undermining my authority. He knew that Xiaojila was a demon, but feigned his own corruption to secretly watch my every step through her. He even knew of my plan to strip Xuan of power and take the throne of the Celestial Emperor. Cunningly using Xuan's obsession with a nameless mortal woman and my temperament, he orchestrated his public rejection of marriage in the court hall. This forced me in a burst of emotion to make a wager, violating the rules of the Disc of Destiny. He foresaw Naming's obsession and knew that Snake would use the Disc of Destiny to push me into reincarnation. In this dangerous trial, he wished only for my failure and the final destruction of my soul. Then he would extract my phoenix blood, brew an elixir, heal himself, and reign as the celestial emperor in the 9 heavens. This little brat hiding in the clouds never considered me his sister from the very beginning, but only used me as a stepping stone on the path to the summit. At this moment, deep in his eyes, the spectral soul was spitefully turning over a bloody snake scale in its hands. Sheila pressed against him. Her voice sounded so gentle as if it were saturated with moisture.
Your Highness, Fang Zhaoyang has already entered the trial. As soon as she fails it and her divine soul is destroyed, the 9 heavens will be yours.
Feng Mingyao's divine soul sneered coldly. There was malice in his voice.
That goes without saying. Only I, Feng Mingyao, am the sole master of the 9 heavens.
He toyed with the scale. His eyes shone with triumph.
Little sister, endure your trials in this world with humility. After your death, I will take your phoenix blood and forge a pill for my recovery.
I, being far away in the mortal realm, seemed to hear his words and sneered coldly into the void.
You brat, you don't even have a body, yet you dream of becoming the heavenly emperor. First, learn to clean up after yourself. Wait, Feng Mingyao. Wait for me, Feng Zhaoyang, to break through from the mortal realm back to the 9 heavens. Then I will personally tear your spirit apart and show you the wrath of a true phoenix.
As for that fickle snake Nanming, I looked at the moonlight outside the window. The corners of my lips rose slightly. Nanming, wait for my return. We still have unfinished business between us. After the birthday celebration, my prestige in the palace was at its peak. The old emperor summoned me to the palace again and again. Sometimes to discuss state affairs, other times just to play chess with me. The looks the princes gave me had also changed. If they looked at me with disdain before, now they looked with wariness. Especially the eldest prince, Xia Zhenyuan. He looked at me as if he wanted to eat me alive. After all, I am only a prince's wife, yet I enjoy the special favor of the emperor father. And that is not good at all. Xiao Jingxin, however, was not worried about anything. As always, he happily walked with me through the streets every day and bought me candied fruit skewers. Returning from the palace, I saw Nanming at the gate. He leaned against the door with a food box in his hands and smiled fawningly.
Your Highness, Liu has brought you fresh plum cakes.
I hadn't even managed to say anything before Xiao Jingxin behind my back had already frowned.
Master Liu, why have you come?
Since that very night when Nanming knocked him out and threw him into the study, Xiao Jingxin had become very wary of Nanming. Nanming shot him a look full of contempt as if he were looking at a romantic rival at revel.
I came to visit my prince. What business is it of yours?
Snorting, he walked into the house with the food. Xiao Zhen tried to stop him, but Nanming's gaze suppressed him, for an ordinary person cannot withstand Nanming's demonic aura. Watching those two ready to clash, I couldn't help but sigh to myself. I fear the prince's palace will soon turn into a battlefield. Nanming followed me into the room, set the food box on the table, and opened it as if presenting a treasure.
Your Highness, please try this. I bought these plum blossom cakes in the south of the city. They are perfectly sweet and very delicious.
Taking a piece of the plum blossom cake, I ate it.
Not bad.
Soft, fragrant, and sweet, with a light scent of plum blossoms. Truly delicious. Seeing me eat with pleasure, Nanming's eyes brightened and the tip of his tail even twitched involuntarily.
If your Highness likes them, I will buy more tomorrow.
There is no need. I set down my chopsticks and calmly said, Do not come to the prince's palace again. You are too conspicuous. The old emperor has already started to suspect me. If he discovers Nanming a representative of the demon clan, I fear it will bring trouble. Nanming's face darkened immediately. He looked at me with resentment.
Your Highness, are you tired of me?
No, I sighed.
This is for your own good.
I am not afraid of trouble. Nanming grabbed my hand abruptly. An obsession flashed in his gaze.
As long as I am by your Highness's side, even if the world falls, I am not afraid.
His hand was cold, carrying the familiar demonic scent. Looking at the obsession in his eyes, I softened a little.
Be obedient.
I patted his hand.
When I am finished with my business, I will come to you at once.
Nanming looked at me for a long time, but eventually nodded.
Very well, but your Highness, do not dare to deceive me.
He leaned in, and seizing the moment, kissed my forehead coldly.
I will protect your Highness from the shadows.
Having said that, he flared with an emerald light and vanished. I stared at the emptiness and sighed. This serpent is insufferable. Only after Nanming left did Xiao Jingxin enter the room. He looked at the cakes on the table, and his expression grew complex.
My dear, what is your relationship with Master Liu?
No special relationship. I said calmly he was my teacher when I was little. Xiao Jingxing clearly did not believe it, but he did not probe further. He simply sat beside me in silence and peeled a tangerine for me. I looked at his face, exactly the same as Xuan Qing's, and suddenly felt irritated. I stood up and walked to the window.
I am tired. Go sleep in the study.
Xiao Jingxing's face darkened again, but he nodded anyway.
Very well, wife. Get some good rest.
After he left, I gazed at the moon, my heart in chaos, my Haas. The throne of the 9 heavens, the mortal struggle for power, and this fickle serpent. The game is getting complicated. My position in the palace bred envy, and Prince Xiao Zhenyuan was among the envious. As I played chess with the emperor, a eunuch announced that the eldest prince was waiting for an audience. The old emperor frowned.
Let him enter.
Xiao Zhenyuan walked into the throne room, carrying a food container, wearing a flattering smile. Wushmo.
Father, I have brought you fresh bird's nest porridge.
The old emperor cast a glance at him.
Set it down.
Zhenyuan placed the container, but his gaze fell upon me, filled with clear hostility.
Father, the third brother's wife often visits the palace and helps you with your reports, see.
He spoke with a smile, but there was a clear mockery in his tone, Sown.
What, do you have an objection?
The emperor looked up, his gaze sharp. Xiao Zhenyuan bowed.
I dare not, but the women of the inner palace must not touch state affairs, na. That is the ancestral law. If the third brother's wife keeps coming, it will cause gossip.
I chuckled. Women shouldn't meddle in politics. He forgot that his mother, Consort Lugi, was constantly weaving schemes. The emperor understood everything too and gave a cold snort.
I see that Chaoyang understands state affairs well. Much better than you princes do.
Xiao Zhenyuan's face turned gloomy in an instant. He wanted to say something, but was interrupted by the old emperor.
Enough, you may leave. I wish to play chess with Chaoyang.
Xiao Zhenyuan left in irritation. Then the old emperor sighed.
This eldest prince is becoming increasingly impatient.
I smiled slightly.
Father emperor is wise.
The old emperor looked at me with full approval.
Chaoyang, you are a smart child. I am old now, and sooner or later this country must pass into the hands of the young.
What does this phrase of the old emperor mean? It is a test. Or will he truly hand the throne to Xiao Jingxing? Staying calm, I wanted to answer, but suddenly caught the scent of poison in the porridge Zhenyuan brought. I immediately knocked the bowl from the emperor's hands.
Father, there is poison in this porridge.
The bowl shattered, the bird's nest porridge spilled, and poison seeped out hissing as it corroded the floor. The emperor's face changed, and he pointed angrily at the floor.
Father emperor, do not be angry.
Issue my decree. Imprison the eldest prince, Xiao Zhenyuan, in the celestial prison and investigate this matter thoroughly.
The old emperor looked at me, full of fear.
Chaoyang, this is all thanks to you.
I smiled slightly. Father emperor, no thanks are needed. It is my filial duty. In my soul, however, I chuckled coldly. Xiao Zhenyuan, Xiao Zhenyan, you are still too naive. You wanted to harm me. You are not yet capable of that. After this storm, the old emperor began to trust me even more. He even allowed me to intervene in the affairs of the Ministry of War and tasked me with helping him train soldiers. I realized my power was growing, and Feng Ming from the 9 heavens couldn't sit still any longer. I stared at the clouds on the horizon. The corners of my lips lifted slightly. Feng Mingyao, wait for me, I will be back very soon. Days passed and my power in the human world continued to grow. The old emperor even issued a decree for me to help Xiao Zhenheng manage state affairs. The ministers who once despised me now respectfully call me Lady Yi when we meet. Xiao Zhenheng relied on me more and more. His gaze turned toward me was full of admiration and trust, but only I knew that all of this was a lie. I did not feel the slightest affection for him. I stayed by his side only to pass the trial. Nanning still protected me from the shadows. He always appeared in time whenever I was in danger and solved all problems. When I couldn't sleep late at night, he would turn into a dark green beam of light and descend to my window, watching me quietly. There weren't many words between us, but I knew he was always there. The power of the celestial stallion suddenly surged within me, and I realized the day of the trial had arrived. I stood on a high platform in the prince's residence, looking at the clouds, where thunder rumbled and lightning flashed, and the breath of the 3 worlds became anxious and restless. The gods of the 9 heavens, the emperor of the human world, and the demons of the dark world were all watching this trial. Suddenly, Feng Mingyao's voice, filled with ominous coldness, rang in my head.
Sister, if you fail the trial, your soul will be destroyed, Ida. The 9 heavens are mine.
I smirked coldly. Flames of karma flashed in my golden eyes. Feng Mingyao, keep dreaming. At that moment a dark green flash appeared, and Nanning stood beside me, firmly gripping my hand with determination in his eyes.
Your Highness Liu, I will go through the trial with you.
I looked at him and something stirred in my soul. Are you not afraid of dying?
I am.
Nanning smiled. His eyes showed stubbornness.
I am afraid of losing you more.
As soon as he said this, lightning suddenly struck from the sky. Nanming shielded me with his body. Demonic mist swirled around him, turning into a solid shield. Thunder struck the shield and a deafening sound erupted. The shield shook violently and blood trickled from the corner of Nanming's lips. Nanming, I screamed. I am fine. He turned and smiled at me.
Your Highness, do not be afraid.
Bolts of lightning showered down one after another. Nanming's energy weakened, his face grew pale, but he held my hand tightly. Suddenly a golden flash appeared and Swan Qin emerged. Clad in the armor of the 9 heavens, he looked at me with complex emotions.
Jiayan, I have come to help you.
I looked at his face, a copy of Xiao Jinchen, and my feelings were a mess. No need, I said. Feng Jian will pass the trial herself. Suan Jin wanted to say something, but he was thrown back by Nanming's demonic energy.
Get out!
Nanming roared with fury.
She is my mistress. You are not allowed to interfere.
Xuanjin looked at Nanming with astonishment.
A demonic source.
At that moment, the final heavenly thunder suddenly crashed down. This heavenly thunder was stronger than all the previous ones combined. Nanming gritted his teeth and focused all his demonic energy on the barrier.
Mistress, hold on to me tightly.
I hugged him tightly. The heavenly lightning struck the barrier, shattering it instantly, and a powerful shockwave threw us both away. I felt my soul gradually dissipating. I weakly called out his name.
Mistress, don't be afraid.
Nanming's voice rang in my ears.
I won't let you die.
He reached out and abruptly shoved his snake pearl into my mouth.
Swallow it.
The snake pearl was scorching hot and filled with powerful magical energy. I instinctively swallowed it, and at that moment a mighty force flooded my entire body. My soul stopped dissipating. The blood of the true phoenix fully awakened, and golden red flames erupted from within. I turned into a true phoenix and soared into the sky, spreading my wings. The gods of the 9 heavens, the emperors of the human world, and the demons of the dark world were shocked. All beings of the 3 worlds exclaimed in amazement. A true phoenix! It is the manifestation of a true phoenix! I, Feng Jiayan, have successfully passed the lightning trial. Feng Yao was gripped by intense fear. Feng Mingyao, hello. I have finally returned home. I transformed into a true phoenix and along with Nanming rushed straight toward the 9 heavens. On the way, countless heavenly warriors tried to stop me, but they were no match for me. My true phoenix flames can burn everything in the 3 worlds, and those heavenly warriors instantly turned to ashes under their influence. Soon I had already stormed into the Lingxia Hall in the 9th heavens. Feng Mingyao's soul hovered right in the center of the hall. He looked at me.
Feng Jiayan,
A look of pain.
Did you really manage to pass the lightning trial?
Thanks to you. Hey, little one. Are you truly ready to face your imminent death?
Feng Jiayan, don't get cocky. His Highness, the Master of the 9 heavens.
A master? A disembodied soul without even a physical form is hardly worthy of being called the Master of the 9 heavens. I flapped my wings, and scarlet flames surged toward Zelua with force. Zelua screamed in pain, and suddenly 9 tails appeared, but her demonic energy was completely powerless against the true phoenix flames, The 9 tails were instantly burned, and Zelua, screaming hysterically, revealed her true form as a 9-tailed fox. You seduced my brother, and plotted against me.
What punishment do you deserve for that?
Seeing Jello crushed beneath my feet, Feng Mingyao was scared to death.
Feng Qiaoyang, don't kill her. I will yield the Celestial Emperor's throne to you.
Oh, yielding it now? It's far too late.
I sneered coldly.
When you were plotting against me, why didn't you think of today?
I reached out my claws and grabbed Feng Mingyao's soul. His soul struggled violently.
Feng Qiaoyang, I am your brother. You cannot kill me.
Brother?
I sneered with contempt.
I, Feng Qiaoyang, have no brother like you.
I squeezed my hand slightly and Feng Mingyao's soul instantly vanished into thin air. With the disappearance of Feng Mingyao's soul, the 9 heavens' immortal energy became pure once more. Those immortal officials who used to flatter the strong and bully the weak fell to their knees, one by one kowtowing at my feet.
We welcome the Celestial Emperor.
Tai Bai Jingsing stroked his beard, smiling with obvious sycophancy.
The wise emperor reigns, the phoenix is on the throne, and peace has come to the worlds.
I cast a cold glance at him.
Tai Bai Jingsing, didn't you say before that I was merely a tool for childbearing?
Tai Bai Jingsing turned pale with fear and hurriedly began to kowtow.
This old servant admits his mistake. He was blind and failed to see the truth.
I didn't speak and looked toward Naming. He had grown very weak after losing his pearl. I covered him with my wings, tears of concern welling up in my eyes.
Naming, thank you. How are you feeling now?
Naming looked at me. His smile was faint but warm.
Your Highness, congratulations. You have achieved your desire.
But suddenly Naming closed his eyes and fell limply into my arms. I took my human form, carried him bridal style to my chambers, laid him on my bed, and channeled energy to heal him. But despite this, his recovery was moving very slowly. So I told him to shift into a snake and took him to the spirit spring to heal. It was in that same Yaochi spring, rich with emperor energy, where he first stole my bath water, where, under the protection of my true phoenix energy, Naming gradually began to recover. Springs and autumns passed. I watched as he, once a small snake, was finally able to take human form again. I almost lost him last time, but now, I will never make such a mistake again. I looked firmly into his eyes and said,
Naming, I, Feng Chaoyang, wish to make you my empress.
Naming froze in place, and then his eyes instantly filled with tears. Choking back a sob, he said,
Your Highness, is that true?
I smiled slightly. My golden eyes glowed with tenderness.
I told you I'd settle my debt with you when I returned. We have a whole lifetime ahead of us for that account. We can settle it bit by bit.
Wan Jin stood bewildered at the hall entrance, watching us from afar with longing in his eyes. He realized he had lost me for good. I noticed him, then calmly said,
Xuanjin, go to the mortal realm and find your nameless girl. I hope your wish comes true.
Xuanjin gave a bitter smile and left. I gazed at the kneeling immortals. My golden gaze was authoritative.
From this day on, I, Feng Chaoyang, am the heavenly emperor of the 9 heavens, and all beings of the 3 worlds are equal. There are no borders between immortals and demons. All living beings deserve respect. Those who disobey will face death without mercy.
The voice spread across the 3 worlds, and countless living beings knelt and bowed toward the 9 heavens. I stood shoulder to shoulder with Naimin in the center of the Lingxiao Hall. Sunlight broke through the clouds and fell upon us. I knew my era had begun, and that breezy serpent would accompany me as I ruled the 3 worlds. From then on, a true Phoenix Emperor and Demon Empress graced the 9 heavens, and their story became a legend among all beings of the 3 worlds.